As the co-founder of Blockchain Intelligence Group, Sean Nancy is at the forefront of DLT and crypto innovation. As the executive chairman of the company, he's also a champion of the need to mainstream cryptocurrency by providing security and accountability solutions to clients. Above all, Nancy is in a unique position to assess the market's current condition and the direction in which it is heading, which is what he's going to do with us today. Welcome, Sean, and let's get straight to it. From what you are hearing, are the financial institutions really coming?
Despite the sell-off in prices and what have you, there's no let-up on the private side. All the institutions are still looking at how do they get in and what's the next phase. And the pullback in the market has really been just, in some ways good because it's flushing out people who shouldn't be here. And a lot of the, when the tide, what do they say, when the tide pulls away, so use who's got what, but ultimately we're seeing the ICO space collapse and what have you. I mean, they're definitely, I think some are saying, well, where's the price going to go and is it worth it to them? I think some of them are just like, well, is the wheel big enough for them? Because really we think $100 billion crypto market's big for them, but really in terms of Forex, it's a drop in the bucket in terms of what they trade and commercial trade that they do. They're definitely seeing, certainly from the exchange standpoint, and we know that the Tokyo Stock Exchange acquired a crypto exchange because during last year that crypto exchange made more money than the Tokyo Stock Exchange. So they know there's money there, and they know there's something there. There's a lot of smart people in these places, and they sense what's going on. The question will be, will they really, with this downturn, will they postpone it or wait until there's more clarity in the market or more clarity in regulations? I think that's definitely possible. I think it'll take longer than people hoping that, ETFs will come on stream and crypto money will be all backed by Wall Street soon. I think that will probably take between 1 to 3 years, but really that's what is that 12 to 36 months. It's not that long for something so massive to start ahead of steam.
The Blockchain Intelligence Group, explain it to us. What is it?
Our company does deep analytics and risk scoring and risk mitigation, tracing and tracking of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. And ultimately, our company's mandate is very simple. We're there to help cryptocurrency go mainstream by creating the reporting that is needed for banks and institutions to be able to operate legally in the space. That's what we do. To that end, yes, we do work with law enforcement from time to time where they do have cases that are specific to where cryptocurrency may have been used as a payment mechanism. But as we like to point out to a lot of people, we see these cases, criminals have flocked to it and on the dark web and what have you, not because Bitcoin is bad, but because it's so convenient. Part of the stuff that we have to do is clean up the reputation of it. And this reminds us when I was much younger and had a lot more hair back in the 90s and the internet came out, and it was certainly a lot of similarities in terms of first embraced by cutting edge people, and then the criminal element got a hold of it because, hey, it was a great way to do what you want to do, and the general public and law enforcement and governments were all up in arms, and eventually came around to and back then talked about let's shut down the internet, maybe we should regulate it, and all the things that they obviously they couldn't do because they didn't have an understanding what was possible. But once the security became better and people got more confidence in it, the system really started to take off.
What is your company's ideology when it comes to Bitcoin?
Our company philosophies are very simple. We always like to ask, when we meet with bankers or even people in our industry, what is Bitcoin? And you'll get the usual, well, it's a payment network. Well, it's value store and et cetera, et cetera. And in our opinion and our company's philosophy, that is wrong. That is not what it is. That is what it is being used for. But what Bitcoin actually is needs to be thought of as the trust layer of the internet itself. It's the continuation of the revolution of the internet. This is the layer 8 to the 7-layer OSI stack that we couldn't do when I was much younger because we just didn't know how to do it. And it represents that global trust layer that sits on top of everything. When you start to think of it as an extension of the very internet itself, then you can start to see how far it's going to go. And we're talking not all the cryptocurrencies, but predominantly Bitcoin is that global, true open source, open concept, truly decentralized. Or truly decentralized. It's decentralized as best as it is, and really acts as that extension of the internet itself. The question is, and how much is the internet worth? How much is the trust layer of the internet worth? I have no idea. but I certainly probably a fair amount, so it will be used. Of course, it'll be used for payments, and of course, it'll be used for value store. Why? Well, because money represents trust, and that's what's required about it. And so now you've got a perfect storm of a network where people can have a trust layer of the internet, communicate over the internet, and ultimately are embracing it around the world.
Is this a threat or an opportunity for Wall Street?
The real risk to banks, in our opinion, is very simple. The risk to the financial institutions, they come out and say, well, our risk is getting charged for money laundering. We don't want to be shut down. We don't want the regulators coming after us. We're board of directors and what have you. We can't allow that in the bank. And they're correct. They can't. They have liabilities and things they have to do. However, there's companies like ours that eliminate that problem or solve that problem and give them the reporting that they need. If you want to launder something, launder cash, don't launder Bitcoin. Financial institutions and risk to banks, particularly the ones on Wall Street, is simple inaction. What do I mean by that? So if we go back to the original thesis and say Bitcoin is the trust layer of the internet, and it represents an extension of the internet, then you have to ask yourself, if you're a bank on Wall Street, how long do you think it's going to be until the lords and masters of the internet of today, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Apples, how long is it going to be until they get into banking? And they use the Bitcoin network to do it. And they have last mile reach to millions and billions of people around the world to their mobile phones. They have massive payrolls and budgets and huge army of developers who are born and bred in a culture of disruption, and will have nothing more than to take a 600-year-old banking industry and turn it on its head. And within 5 to 10 years, you're going to see Wall Street competing directly with Silicon Valley, and you'll see Silicon Valley taking out Wall Street banks, just like we saw back in the 90s, early 2000s, with a complete financial shakeup for all kinds of different industries. And now it's coming to banking.
Finally, your prediction, will 2019 be the year in which crypto is regulated?
I think the law enforcement and what have you and regulators are definitely, we speak to them, of course, and we at different countries, we know different regulators and share our opinions and thoughts and insights onto, how we see, flows of funds and what have you. It could be the year of regulators. Certainly, I think they're going to get a lot more clarity probably by summer. I know there's some regulations that are due to come out. And then we're also having the application of old securities laws to ICOs and what have you. So, as we've said for a long time, and it's just, these things are IPOs, and they're not going to get away with it. But you will see an adaptation where I think the regulators are going to understand you can't shut this down. So now you're going to have to open the doors to more people to participate in, and ultimately IPOs. So, and people always say, regulators have it wrong, and you hear that again. You hear that drumbeat all the time. Well, regulators got it wrong. Regulators got what wrong? That they want to put some controls in there so you can't have ICO fraud and all that kind of stuff. No, of course not. That the rules for going public are X or Y. Now, those rules are there, just have to be adapted. So I don't think they have it all that wrong. I just think it's a question of updating the rule set to make sure that it's a level playing field and it makes sense for the new technology. But they're not that far off.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for your time.